What's going on, guys? Welcome to J Powell Music. Of course, if you can subscribe, that would be great. And also like the videos so they go around the internet. Today, we are reviewing Will Smith's new album he released just recently, titled Based on a True Story. And looks like the subtitles is Rave in the Wasteland, but that is what the acronyms mean there in the upper left hand corner on the album cover. So this might be a potential series, so we might be seeing Rave in the Wasteland, 2 and 3 is maybe a potential trilogy situation. So there's some interesting stuff to talk about here for the album, right? So, obviously we've been seeing Will Smith quite a bit throughout the socials. He released, a couple singles from this album, especially the joint that he released with Big Sean, Beautiful Scars. I believe he released another single as well. I believe it was the Work of Art. I believe that was another single that came out before releasing the album as well. So first and foremost, as far as for the album, how I thought about it, I think it's funny. He still got it right. He's still. I don't think anybody doubted that. As far as him being, a rapper, and he can still rap. He still has the talent. You know what I mean? So, but there's a couple things with this album that I think are a bit disjointed or feel disjointed as far as for the production of the album, and then just his flow and whatnot. So I think he tries a lot of new things when it comes to the type of style that he raps, and especially the beats as well. A lot of different styles. So I think one thing is that not that he has an identity crisis as an artist for 2025, but maybe he does have an identity crisis as an artist for 2025 from a style standpoint, right? Because Big Willie's style is very apparent as far as Millennium. That wasn't the best album, but there's a couple of bangers on there. The Men in Black soundtrack, which is really good. The style was kind of noted, and just the music really complemented his style. I think for this, he's trying quite a few different styles. So, for example, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I do feel like there's a bit of he's trying out different things. So, for example, "You Looking for Me" very much is a Drake type of beat, in my opinion. I feel like I can hear Drake on that. And obviously there's a lot of inspirations through this album from an instrumental standpoint. "You're Looking for Me," very much a Drake type beat. "Raven the Wasteland." I don't know about you guys. That sounds like New Slaves, like Kanye's Yeezus New Slaves beat. It sounds very much like that. And once again, maybe he's just inspired by that sound, right? Because I know, whether you like Kanye West or not, Yeezus from a sonic perspective did influence a lot of other musicians, even from that album being a later album. Clearly, right? Listen to that song, you'd be like, okay, I see. I kind of see some of the inspiration on that type of beat, and maybe it's just that type of pattern, but it just reminds me of the New Slaves track. Not a bad track, but it very much reminds me of it. Some of my favorite songs on here, even though Bulletproof, how it starts, it's like one of those cliche, like old man with soul singing, doing a riff. But Bulletproof is a really good song. I think it's one of the better songs there in the project. I think Beautiful Scars is really good. I know it's a single, but I think it was a great beat. Features a great Obanga, and Big Sean does his thing. So I think that's a solid song as well on the project. Tantrum is pretty good as well. Jordan Lucas does his thing. One of the worst songs to me was First Love. And there's some really talented people on that track too. You have India Martinez, excuse me, Arenas, and then Marcin, who is this virtuoso, insane guitar player, insane musician. Excuse me, but I don't feel like the song really comes together. It feels really disjointed. It feels like they're trying some different things, but there really isn't an established vibe or flow to me. So I don't think the song really comes together. That definitely wasn't one of my favorites on the project. Hard times reaching Tiana Taylor, and I'm a Tiana Taylor fan. I really am, but she sounds kind of bored on this. Like she doesn't like her. I've heard incredible performances from Tiana Taylor. She has great projects too, but I wasn't the biggest fan of this performance from her feature. She just didn't seem, and maybe she just didn't get enough coaching as far as from like a producing thing, as far as like, hey, singing like this, you know what I mean? And that could definitely be it. You know, we've seen great actors do horrible parts, right? And just a really bad screenplay. And a lot of times we blame the actor when really it's just the writing and it's the directing, right? So I feel like that was the situation for that song. Um, and then also the You Can Make It, I think is one of the highlights as well. Um, it's slightly anticlimactic. I kind of feel like I wish there was that climax resolution from an instrumental perspective. I feel like it kind of plays with the build up in that song, but good song. I just feel like it kind of played a little too much with that build up there. And then work of art is pretty good too. You know, Russ does his thing. He sounds really good on it. And then in Jaden, you know, Jaden does his thing as well. So I mean, that's not too bad for how many songs that I did like on the album. I think those songs sound pretty good. The beats switch up a lot, and maybe I'm just not accustomed to that because I don't know. I just have a different style as far as when it comes to hip hop and stuff. As far as certain songs, you know, switch up or whatnot. But I feel like some of these songs they switch up like four different times. You know, it's like, okay, what is? Are we just? Is this like a DJ set? What are we doing? You know, and to be fair, there are some songs from his prior albums that kind of have a switch up thing too. But I think the biggest issue for me with this, and it's not necessarily Will's fault, I would say it's not Will's fault at all. It's more so the production and him finding a voice musically with a producer that's really going to meld well with how Will Smith is today. I feel like he tried to have like old like have like the maybe the old artist will younger artist will and try to put it into 2025 and then experiment with a bunch of different beats that are very reminiscent of other artists. And again, nothing wrong with that, but at the end of the day there should be some type of there's got to be a synergy. You know, I've talked about this before on my channel. um the artist producer synergy is really important, and it helps kind of create just you know the album really coming together. You know, the Auditorium Volume One, Common and Pete Rock, phenomenal album, really great album. Like it's like peanut butter and jelly. You know what I mean? Um, you know, Hit Boy and Nas, peanut butter and jelly. It's really, you know, I thought they work really well together. Um, so it's I feel like there's you know, that's kind of the biggest problem to me for the album is that I feel like he's kind of finding his footing for the sound that he wants, right? The sound that he wants, and you know how he's kind of working with doing his thing throughout the sounds that work for him. And some songs work and some songs didn't. You know, again, Bulletproof, Beautiful Scars, You Can Make It, Work of Art, those are my favorites. You know, Make It Look Easy is pretty decent too, but I would say those ones I mentioned are probably to me the best songs on the album. One of the lasting things that I wanted to say on this, I was trying to think of who would have been a producer combo to make sense to work with Will Smith from a production standpoint. Because it sounds like I think there's one producer mainly that made the beats for this. Um, but I would like to see someone, Alchemist would be really interesting for Will Smith to be on it. Um, Maybe Madlib? I think Madlib would be really great. Would be really dope to work with Will Smith on. I think he needs to find his footing with a sound. He needs to reinvent his sound. Is my point. And I feel like for this project, there was a lot of beats that were like, sounds like Drake. You know, it's like YouTube where it's like, sounds like this, sounds like that, you know, and he's rapping over it. And it seems fine, seems cool, but is that the Will Smith artist that he is? Or is he having that identity crisis as an artist? So that's kind of my take. I would say there's a couple songs worth listening to on here, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was nice just hearing Will Smith in general, as far as rapping and whatnot. You know, holding on to his accolades, which are absolutely deserved, right? You know, first album to win a Grammy. But I do feel like there is an identity crisis here in this project, and it seems like this is volume one. Seems like this is going to be Raven the Wasteland. Seems like it's going to be some type of a series. So very curious to see what happens in the future, for what the other projects will hold. But yeah, that's my take there. Again, this is J Powell Music. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next video. Thanks a lot.